In the 21 years from 1969 to 1989, the Michigan Wolverines will win 194 games while losing just 48 with 5 ties.
He's one of the guys, that's all.
No other team in the Big Ten Conference will win more than Michigan.
He hung around a long time. Longevity helped him a lot.
During this period, the Maize and Blue will become conference champions a league-leading 13 times.
He was successful, and he loved Michigan. He loved coaching here. It's his last coaching job was Michigan. And he walked away from it with the Michigan stamp on him.
And the head coach over these 21 years will win more games than any other coach in the history of Michigan football.
When you say Yost and Chrysler and Oosterbahn, you can say Schembechler with those guys. And Schembechler's right proud that you do.
(1969 to 1989). These were the Schembechler years. In 1969, Wolverine football coach Bump Elliott moves into administration. This opens the football program's top spot, and athletic director Don Canham goes after a coach from Miami of Ohio. His name is Schembechler.
Don called me. I accepted the job. I came up here, and as you know, he put me in a motel under an assumed name. And while we were riding in from the airport, I asked him, what are you going to pay for this job? And he said, oh, well, $21,000. Well, at that time, I was making $19 with a $1,000 raise coming the next year, so I'd have made $20. So I came here really for a $1,000 raise. And I said, well, what kind of contract do I have here? He said, oh, you got 5 years. He said, you want something written? I said, no, just tell me what the deal is. He said, oh, you got 5 years. I said, by that time, you'll know whether I can coach or not. And that's the way I came to Michigan.
With the arrival of Bo Schembechler in 1969, the University of Michigan football team faces a determined, tough, new leader.
I walked in here with a highly conservative, disciplined football program, and they said, hey, that ain't going to work here. And I said, well, if it doesn't work here, I'm not going to be here very long, because that's the way we're going to do it. And so we put that program in, and that first spring practice was something to behold.
Come on, thanks for the defense down there.
Bo immediately sets the team goal: beat Ohio State.
We designed our entire program. Our defense was designed to stop the Ohio State power attack with their great fullback. We ran an offense that was similar to theirs so that our defense could see it a lot and learn how to defense it. Because nobody else had a clue in this league to how to stop Ohio State. And so we geared everything with that in mind.
But after the first 5 games, Michigan is 3-2, and Schembechler has even been outfoxed by Michigan State coach Duffy Doherty, who switches from the wishbone to the I formation and downs Michigan 23-12.
It was bad coaching that lost the game. There's no question about it. We were just fooled. And I'll never forget this until the day I die. Jim Young was our defensive coordinator, great coach. And of course, Jim was frustrated because they had jumped from the wishbone. We had all wishbone defenses, and they jumped to the I formation. And they were marching up and down the field, and I walked up the sideline. I grabbed Jim by the arm, and I said, "Jim, for God's sake, let's get him stopped." And he turned around, looked at me, and his face turned white, and he fainted right there in front of me. He fainted, and we had to revive him and get him up. I'm sure you recall that. You were probably on that team up there and saw that. But anyway, that was my indoctrination to the Michigan State series.
But now the Wolverines come to life and steamroll their next 4 opponents. As the season ends, Schembechler heads into a battle against Woody Hayes and Ohio State for the conference championship and a trip to the Rose Bowl.
4, 3, 2, 1. They got Schembechler on their shoulders. Listen to the crowd go wild. Michigan upsets Ohio State. Believe it or not, the final score. Ripley couldn't have made it any better than this. Michigan 24, Ohio State 12.
Some call it the greatest upset in the history of college football. The victory firmly establishes Schembechler and Michigan as a dominant force in the Big Ten.
Nobody knew who we were or what we were doing. Now they knew Michigan. It isn't like that's what put Michigan on the map, but it certainly put our program on the map because there were too many people out there that knew anything about Schembechler. I mean, that wasn't exactly a household word. And by beating, now Jim, we're talking about you've got to get the picture completely. Beating what many people said was the greatest collegiate football team of all time. Now we're talking all time. That's what they said. That the only team that could possibly give them a game at that time was the Minnesota Vikings. And apparently they must have been the hot shots in the NFL at that time, but it wasn't that the way it was. And so by beating them, I mean, this was unheard of. And I'm sure as that game got underway and word started to spread around the country in the various stadiums that Michigan is on top of Ohio State. And then as it came to the fourth quarter, as you saw in the stadium when the people were chanting and counting down that this was a special game. This wasn't just an ordinary game. This was a magnificent upset. And I think if you want to put it in perspective, you would have to read a letter that Fritz Greisler wrote me as he watched the game from his hospital bed, and how proud he was that he was Michigan, and that how Michigan stood out that day, and once again expressed their dominance in college football.
In his first year, Schembechler has captured the Big Ten championship. The celebration, however, is short-lived. Just before the Rose Bowl, Bo suffers a heart attack.
And I took the electrocardiogram, and I was lying there on the table, and matter of fact, I was studying the plays, to be honest with you, the game plan. And Dr. Weinstein came in, who was the cardiologist in charge of the hospital, and said, "Coach, you're out of the game." And I couldn't believe it. They immediately sedated me and put me in intensive care. So the truth of the matter was, I didn't really have a whole lot of time to think about it. And I knew nothing about the game, how it went or what went on until probably a day after.
In the Rose Bowl, Southern Cal beats Michigan 10-3. Schembechler recuperates and prepares for the 1970 season. The rivalry with Ohio State and Woody Hayes is already heating up, even during the recruiting season.
It was like this. I would be in a high school in the state of Ohio, and I'd be talking to a youngster for about an hour, and he's really leaning my way, ready to come to Michigan, wants to talk to his parents, and I would say to him, now, son, I want you to remember one thing. Tomorrow morning, Coach Hayes will be in your school. And he said, oh, no, I haven't talked to Coach Hayes. I said, Coach Hayes will be here tomorrow morning. Sure enough, invariably the next morning, Coach Hayes was in that school. And it became a real personal battle in recruiting.
The personal contest between Schembechler and Hayes continues, and the 1970 championship comes down to an undefeated Michigan versus an undefeated Ohio State. Ohio State prevails 20-9, and Bo calls in to question the Big Ten's bowl game policy. Only conference champions can go to a bowl, but never 2 years in a row.
That was the first time that I felt, it was my second year here, what a shame that we play on the road against Ohio State, a great football team, and we lose, and yet a lot of these other guys are going to be going to bowl games around the country, and we're not going to get a chance to go. It just wasn't fair. It was an antiquated Big Ten rule.
The loss to Ohio State is only Bo's second conference loss in 2 years, and his first defeat at the hands of his former teacher, Woody Hayes. But Bo knows what to do.
Just get ready for the next one, and start that night as you look at the film to think about next year, Ann Arbor, Michigan.
'71 will be remembered as the year in which Bo Schembechler has his only undefeated, untied regular season team.
We finally decided that we would forget about the passing game, and this is probably where we got the reputation of always running. Once we did that and settled down, and people knew what we were going to do, they all lined up there, tried to stop us, but they couldn't do it. And so we went through the regular season, 11 games, unbeaten and untied.
And once again, it comes down to Woody versus Bo. With under 2 minutes to go and Michigan trailing 7-3, Wolverine running back Billy Taylor takes control.
Zipper rolls out to the right, pitches off to Taylor, and Taylor's to the 20, down to the 15, down to 10, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Touchdown, Billy Taylor! Touchdown, Billy Taylor!
Michigan 10, Ohio State 7. Moments later, Tom Darden intercepts to seal the Michigan victory. But Woody won't let it end. He wants a pass interference call. He tears up the sideline markers in disgust.
And Woody Hayes is out on the field. Woody Hayes is out trying to intimidate the officials because Woody Hayes felt that Tommy Darden interfered with his intended pass receiver.
Woody was clear over on our hash mark when he was chasing Jerry Markbright, the referee. And his glasses were steamed up, so I know he couldn't see. And I just felt as I watched him out there that I said, Woody, this game is gone. It's in the loss column, but you're getting ready early for next year. And that's exactly what he was doing.
Michigan is the Big Ten champion. In the Rose Bowl, they lose to Stanford 13-12.
Some can't handle the negative reinforcement, if that's what you want to call it. Sometimes you motivate guys by saying, I don't think you can handle that, And then others, if you say, I don't think you can handle that, the guy will say, I can't handle that. He even told me that I can't do that. Well, you don't want to say it to that guy. That guy, you're going to have to say, I know you can do that. I know you can. Now, you just got to go do it. So, no two guys are the same. I had a guy one time that I I had been trying to make a player out of this guy. Matter of fact, I just talked to him not too long ago on the phone. Very successful insurance man now. I told him, I said, look, I've tried to motivate you. I've tried to do all this thing. I said, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. The rest of this year, I'm not talking to you. I'm not even saying hello to you. I'm not recognizing that I know you. And I went one whole year, never said a word to the guy. And all of a sudden, he became a tremendous player, an all-conference player, a defensive starter, and then we became friends again. But I did go a year. I told him, I said, I'm not talking to you anymore. Now, he knows during the course of that period that I was thinking about him, but I ain't going to let him know. I'm not going to talk to him.
From 1972 through 1974, the Michigan Wolverines are a dominant college football power. With Denny Franklin at quarterback, they outscore their opponents 918 to 200.
There is the end around this time to go. Chapman. He gets the block. He's in at the midfield stretch to the 45, the 40, the 40, the 45, the 25, the 20, the 15, 10, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Still Chapman. Still Chapman.
The mighty Maize and Blue defense chalks up 11 shutouts. And each year, they are co-champions of the Big Ten.
72, 3, and 4. Those teams won 30, lost 2, and tied 1. And the significant thing about that is that none of those teams ever played in a bowl game. That was a crime. And but they should have played in 73. That was the year that we had the infamous vote by the athletic directors that we finally had to get that rule changed too.
The infamous vote occurs in 1973. In the conference championship game, Michigan and Ohio State battle to a 10-10 tie. Michigan will go to the Rose Bowl. Ohio State has gone the year before. But shockingly, the Big Ten athletic directors, citing an injury to Wolverine quarterback Dennis Franklin as one reason, vote to send Ohio State. It is an especially bitter time for Schembechler.
To have that vote occur, there were some very weak character guys in athletic director positions in the Big Ten. That's been proven. And everybody thought, well, we'll let it go and forget about it. But I had some great football players and great teams that never got to play in that great classic. And they were some of the best football teams in the United States of America. And I never forgot that, Jim. I never forgot that. I always said to myself, if I ever let up on my bitterness over what happened to that football team in 1973, I'm not being fair to those guys who played. And so I never have, and I've been bitter ever since about it, and I'll never forget it as long as I live. And fortunately, as a result of that situation, we took the determination of the Rose Bowl representative out of the hands of the athletic directors because they weren't qualified to handle it. Number one. And second of all, because of that Michigan team in 1973, all these other teams in the Big Ten Conference now have an opportunity to play in a postseason bowl game because that restriction of the Rose Bowl or no bowl was as antiquated and stupid as anything the Big Ten's ever done. And so we did accomplish something, but it was at a hell of an expense.
Though the 72 through 74 teams never see bowl action, their championship play forever stands as some of the finest in the history of Michigan football.
He hands off to Shuttlesworth 5, and it's down to the end zone. Touchdown! Touchdown, Dennis Franklin! Oh my God, Dennis Franklin fooled everybody. He fooled me.
That was a great era, and but a frustrating one because you had such great teams, and yet they didn't get their just reward. And stop to consider not just the fact they won 30, lost 2, and tied 1, but they were always co-champion of the Big Ten Conference and never played in a bowl game. The halftime speech is a misnomer because it doesn't happen at halftime. You don't have time for that at halftime. At halftime, you have to make adjustments, and you're busy with the technical aspect of football. If you want to motivate, to stimulate, it may come during the week. It may have come before you left the hotel to come to the locker room to dress. Those speeches, they come from time to time when you think they're necessary. That's when they come. But halftime speeches, per se, unless you're really mad about something, which has happened on occasion, and the results very often have been positive. But there's no such thing as the old pregame, halftime, let's go win one for the Gipper. No, I don't see those much anymore. There was quite a controversy on our staff as to whether we go with a veteran quarterback or whether we take this new young snotty-nosed freshman and expose him immediately. The general consensus was to go with the veteran. However, I felt that if it was that close that we had to argue over who the quarterback was, in the next 4 years, this guy's going to be something pretty decent. And we might as well get into it right now. We were playing at Wisconsin in the opener. I took him around, walked around the track at the stadium the day before the game on Friday, and told him that he was going to be the starting quarterback, that I didn't expect him to win the game himself, that he should take advantage of the talent that will be surrounding him, and we'll do okay. Well, in the opening game, he threw 3 interceptions. However, Gordy Bell, our great tailback, ran for 210 yards against Wisconsin, put on a fabulous show, and we pulled the game out and won it, and the Leach era had begun.
After a shaky start in '75, freshman Leach leads the Wolverines to 7 straight victories and a showdown for the Big Ten championship against Ohio State. With the score tied at 14-all, Schembechler decides that, with the Rose Bowl berth in the balance, a tie is unacceptable. He sends Leach back to pass from deep within Michigan territory. Ohio State intercepts and goes on to win 21-14. However, the Big Ten Bowl rules have changed. Michigan does not sit at home this holiday season.
And when we go back on that season, we failed to win the championship in 1975. We also became the first team to go to a bowl other than the Rose Bowl. And wouldn't you know, Jim, the Orange Bowl chose us to play against the national champion Oklahoma Sooners. And they were certainly a great football team. We were a very, very young team. And Rick was a freshman, and they knocked him out in the first half. We lost our quarterback in the first half. And we put on a defensive effort that Oklahoma, Barry Switzer and that staff still talk about, because we shut that wishbone down as much as it's ever been shut down. We lost the game 14-6. But we taught them something about defense in the wishbone, and we started to get a lot of traffic through here after that season of everybody that played Oklahoma.
During the offseason, Schembechler undergoes open heart surgery. Even as a patient, Bo continues to act like a coach.
Well, Dr. Otto Gago, who is a skilled surgeon, I was to be operated on the next morning, so they prepped me the night before, and he came around to see me and made the final talk about what's going to happen and everything. And I looked up at him and I said, look, I'm going to tell you something. I don't care what you do to me. I'll survive this thing and I'll make it. I said, I am ready for this operation. The only thing that bothers me, I don't know whether you're ready or not. And he looked at me, he says, but Coach, I've been practicing all day.
From 1976 through 1978, with Leach at quarterback, Michigan marches through the Big Ten Conference.
Lido takes over the 30, the 35, the 40, the 45, the 50, the 40, down to 35, the 30, the 25, the 20, the 15, 10, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There it is! Rob Lido electrifies it! A drop back pass, and he's going to throw down there to Clayton. Touchdown, Clayton! Touchdown, Clayton! Ricky Leach rolls to the right. He cuts back in. He's going in, and he does! He scores! Ricky Leach! Now it's Wolf Falk up over the midfield stripe, down to the 45, the 40, the 35, the 30, the 25, the 20, the 15, 10, the 5, and it's a touchdown! Wolf Falk! Wolf Falk!
Each year, the title comes down to the Ohio State game, and each year, Michigan wins. In '76, they dominate Woody and the Buckeyes.
We ran for 300-some yards that day. Rob Lido at fullback and tailback, playing both positions, was sensational. And we went in to score the clincher there and ended up beating them 22-0. It was the first game in which you could honestly say the one team really kicked the other one, because we kicked them good 22-0 in their own stadium, and it felt very, very good.
In 1977, the Wolverines take it from Ohio State 14-6. And in '78, it's Michigan 14, Ohio State 3. In this period, Schembechler makes 3 Rose Bowl appearances. He loses each time. The scores, however, are close. And in the 1979 game against Southern Cal, controversy erupts over what will become known as the Phantom Touchdown. On second down at the Michigan 3, Trojan running back Charles White dives for the touchdown. White loses the ball before he crosses the goal line, but the officials don't see it that way.
Hey, you know, I'm not sure we'd have won the game, but let's face it. There was a touchdown difference in the game, and this lad did not have a football when he went into the end zone. And you know what's bad about that, to show you about a mixed crew of part Pac-10. This was our guy that called it. And every other guy around there saw it and knew the guy was blowing it to high heaven, and didn't overrule him, because he wanted to be adamant and not be overruled. You know, he wanted to show that that's my call, which the guy didn't know what he was talking about. And unfortunately, we didn't have any tough guys over there who said, wait a minute, stop the game. We're not going any further. I don't care what you say. The ball was over there, and the end zone's over there. It's Michigan's ball that way. But none of those guys would stand up and be counted. None of them. Now that was bad.
In the 4 years of the Leach era, Michigan is 38-8-2. They win 3 consecutive championships. This era also sees the end of the Woody versus Bo matchups. Ohio State head coach Woody Hayes leaves college football after an unfortunate incident in the Gator Bowl. A Clemson player intercepts an Ohio State pass and returns it. Woody punches the player. He will never coach again.
Yeah, I saw the film, and there wasn't any question that he hit the Clemson kid. When we finally had an opportunity to get together, and because Woody had been in seclusion for some time after that incident, Woody, till his dying day, felt that what he was trying to do is to wrest the ball from the hands of the middle guard of Clemson. I feel very strongly that being a diabetic, that his blood sugar was so out of whack, that after a long and arduous game toward the end there, I don't think that Woody really knew what he was doing. So it looked terrible, and unfortunately some people will remember him for that. But those of us that have coached with him and played for him and know him well realize that incident is not Woody Hayes. I mean, it definitely happened, it's documented, but that's not the way that we'll remember him. I think that we both actually were kind of fond of each other and had respect for one another and enjoyed the rivalry and played up to the rivalry a little bit. And of all the eras of my career, the 10-year Woody Bo was the most satisfying.
He's throwing to Carter in the end zone, and Carter catches it. It's a touchdown, Carter!
His name is Anthony Carter. Over the next 4 years, he will catch more passes, rack up more receiving yardage, and score more touchdowns than any other player in the history of Michigan football.
Now Wenger looks at that 7-man. A quick look in past the Carter down deep to the end zone, and he catches the ball! Oh, beautiful aerial play from the 23-yard line. I tell you, this Anthony Carter is something else again. He was at the 12-yard.
Carter was a special talent, perhaps the greatest athlete that we've had during my time here. We were out there in shorts, and we were testing the arms of the quarterbacks and throwing just deep streak patterns, and they were overthrowing everybody except one. No matter how far they threw that ball out there, there was an extra acceleration that would put him under the ball and able to catch it. And it was at that time it said, I've not seen that in my career. I mean, I've not seen that kind of explosion to get to the ball. Speed to Anthony was, how fast do I have to run? And whatever it took, he could run that fast. When he came out of the huddle, there were 11 guys on defense that wanted to know where he went. I could promise you that.
Even with the exceptional skills of Carter, Bo's 1979 squad lacks the experience to win the championship. They finished third, the lowest finish to date by a Schembechler Michigan team. But in his debut season, Anthony Carter treats the fans to what will be called the greatest play in the history of Michigan football. On a homecoming afternoon in Ann Arbor, Michigan battles Indiana. With just 6 seconds remaining, the score is tied at 21-all. A tie will be considered an upset. Indiana savors the moment, but Anthony Carter is not ready to let this one in.
Under center is Wangler at the 45. He goes back. He's looking for a receiver. He throws downfield to Carter. Carter has it. Look at those Wolverines. 95 Wolverines. Going in the end zone. Carter got the pass.
The play was called. Anthony told Wangler, you throw the ball to me. And because what it was an in route. Instead, see, by this time, when you know you only have one play left, they obviously played a cold zone defense and sat back there. the ball had to be completed underneath. Now, if you were going to complete the ball underneath the 3-deep coverage, who on your football team would you want to have the ball? Why, without question, Anthony Carter. And so Wangler went back there, but in the huddle, I know for a fact that Carter told him, "Wangs, you throw the ball to me." And that's what Wangler did, and Carter did the rest.
Johnny Wrangler to Anthony Carter will be heard until another 100 years of Michigan football is played.
One reason for the Wolverines' third-place finish this year is the kicking game. It's a nightmare, and Bo takes steps to shake everyone awake.
In 1979, we had the worst kicking game in the United States of America. We could not punt the ball. We could not extra point and field goal the ball. And we had punts blocked. We had punts returned on us. We did not cover well. We didn't do anything well. And it was partly coaching and partly talent. But we didn't coach it well. Now, at the end of 79, we had a little talk in our staff meeting, and we signed each guy a position on the punt. And we said, now you're responsible. If anything goes wrong at that position, you are responsible. And I told them that we had no long-term contracts here with any assistant coaches, and that we're going to coach the punt with great enthusiasm. And we're not going to have this problem again. And we did that. And in 1980, 1 year later, we led the United States of America in net punting. Now, what does that tell you? That tells you that you can achieve anything you want in football if you're willing to place the emphasis on it. Now, we placed the emphasis on it in 79, but we placed the time on it. We didn't put the emphasis on it. We put in the same amount of time. We didn't add any extra time to work on the punt in 80. We just did it more enthusiastically.
1980 dawns with great expectations. But in the early going, the expectations are not met. After 3 games, for the first time under Schembechler, the Wolverines are 1-2. Now, Bo discovers that some players are grumbling, complaining about the coaching. It threatens the season. He takes action.
Apparently, there was a lot of negative talk. We were, practicing too long, hitting too much, and coaches too critical. Typical of a losing team, You would almost think that could never happen at Michigan. And this was a Sunday afternoon after the South Carolina game. And so I asked one of our young coaches whether, this were just guys that were sitting on the bench or those playing in the game. And of course, he said, I hear the captain of the team saying it. And so I gave him 5 minutes to get Andy Canavino in my office. And I went after Andy hard. I asked him if he'd heard any of those things. He said he had. I said, "You ever say any of them yourself?" And he said, "Yes, I did." And I got a little upset because Andy's father played at Ohio State. Ohio State hadn't offered this young man a grant and aid. We brought him to Michigan, made him an all-Big Ten linebacker. Teammates elected him captain of the team, and ends up that he's one of our problems here as far as attitude's concerned. So I went after him hard. When it was over, Andy got up and tears were coming down his cheeks because I really went after him. He went out the door, and from that point on, in my judgment, Andy Canavino's the greatest captain I've ever had at Michigan. He was unbelievable in practice. He led a defensive team. I think it was like 21 consecutive quarters. Nobody crossed our goal line. we beat everybody. We beat them all. We were so enthusiastic, and when we played, the enthusiasm just permeated throughout the squad, and people that watched us knew that this was a squad that was together with a purpose. And we won the Rose Bowl. At the end of the season, in my opinion, that was the greatest football team in the United States of America. We didn't win the national championship because the head coach made one classic mistake. He didn't coach attitude like he should. Anybody who's going to coach today had better coach attitude every single day of the week with every player he's got, and not take for granted that if someone's elected captain, they know what to do as captain. You bring the captain in and you sit him down and you tell him how important his responsibilities are, that he's the coach on and off the field, that he represents me, that the players look to him, and that he's got to be the right kind of a guy. Cannavino was a sensational player and ended up being a great, great captain. And we were a great, great football team. But why wouldn't you do that before you started? So that you beat Notre Dame, so that you beat South Carolina, and so that when the season ends, everybody knows you're the best team in the United States of America, because we were. But that's just one of those things.
The turnaround in attitude takes Michigan to the Big Ten championship.
There's a drop play to Woolfolk over the 40, the 45. He cuts back to the 50, the 45, the 40, the Big Ten champion, the 30, the 25, the 20, the 15, the 10, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Coach Woolfolk electrifies the screen. There is a fake handoff. It's a thrown pass to Carter. Touchdown, Carter! Carter scores a touchdown!
1980 wraps up with Michigan the outright Big Ten champion, undefeated in the conference. And to climax this season, Schembechler scores his first bowl victory at Michigan. In the Rose Bowl, he downs Washington 23-6.
Butch Woolfolk had a great day, so did Carter. The play that stands out is we were standing on about our own 10-yard line with 3rd down and 40 or something. We had a couple penalties back to back, and we went to run the same old draw play, but from a split back formation that we hadn't done before. And we called the play. I called the play. And I got more static from these coaches. Oh, no, not here, not that. Oh, no, but why are you doing that? And old Woolfolk ripped up through there for 45 yards of the first down and darn near went all the way. And but that I remember that as a big play. And that was the key play that got us out of trouble, and then we went on to win the game.
The Wolverines look to repeat in 1981. The major change in their lineup is a new quarterback, Steve Smith.
We had the nucleus of that dominant team of 1980 that won the Rose Bowl. And we were the preseason #1 pick in the nation again. And unfortunately, we went to play Wisconsin in Madison to open the season, and we laid an egg. A colossal egg.
This year, the Wolverines will finish tied for 3rd with a 6-3 Big Ten record. One of the most memorable games this season is Michigan's 70-21 drilling of Illinois. Some say this marks the beginning of hostile feelings between the two schools, feelings that will continue through the decade. The big question, did Bo run up the score?
Anybody that got beat by 70 points is going to say you run it up. Heaven's sake, 70 points. Truth of the matter is, we were scoring with the 3rd guys and the 4th guys. We were scoring with everybody late in that game.
Overall, a third-place finish is disappointing this year. But in the Bluebonnet Bowl, the season ends on a high note.
We blew out UCLA rather badly in that game, and won it. That's right, we won a bowl game there. Actually, that team should have been a better team than what it was. That team should have won the conference. That loss to Wisconsin really put us out of it.
'82 closes out the Carter years, and it will be a far different season than 1981. Michigan loses 2 of the first 3, but then storms back to eliminate the next 7 opponents.
Smith on the option right, going to keep it. Cuts it in at the 35, at the 30, breaks it back to the middle, outside to the left at the 20, back to the middle at the 10, the 5. What a touchdown run by Steve Smith! It is first and 10 at the 14-yard line, and back goes Smith to throw. He's rolling to his left. He's looking for Carter in the end zone.
Against Illinois, though, the game is tight. It comes down to a last-minute Wolverine goal line stand.
Murphy and Beverly in the split backfield. Here we go. One wide out. Williams to the left. 6 men in close. Give to Beverly. Tries the right side. It is yes! Michigan wins! Michigan will win the football game!
They chose to run on the goal line. Ran a play in which Hammerstein made a fantastic play. That's why he was such a great defensive lineman. You know, you can't block that big son of a gun. And he came off a block and got into the backfield and nailed that thing for no gain, and the game was over. That was a great, great defensive football play.
Even though Michigan drops the season ender to Ohio State, they take the championship and appear in the Rose Bowl. Here, UCLA bests the Wolverines 24-14.
Sure, I can act. Sure, I can act. I'm very disappointed that no one from Hollywood has seen fit to contact me. But the truth is that if you have a cause and you want to express yourself because of something that happened, and you want to make sure that you're heard, you're gonna act and get it done. And I think that's part. I think any coach who can't act can't coach, because what does he do before a team? What do you do before a team? Aren't you presenting some material to them in a way in which it's going to excite them and make them listen and make them want to learn? Of course you are. And when you do that, aren't you going to be animated? Aren't you going to be, hey, what do you want? Some guy up there, I think we ought to run off tackle. I mean, that's going to inspire them. No, of course you act. Anybody who's ever been before the public acts. Anybody who's trying to make a point is an actor. And so if that's the case, then I'm an actor.
With Anthony Carter gone and Steve Smith playing his final year at quarterback, 1983 in many ways is a transitional year. It will be the following year, in 1984, that the Harbaugh-Morris era begins. When his career ends this year, Smith will hold school records for most games with over 150 yards passing, most pass completions, and most yardage gained. But many fans overlook Smith's statistics, and on several occasions, they boo him from the stands. The boos don't bother Bo Schembechler.
Probably the most underrated of the quarterbacks since I've been here would be Smith, because he was such a multi-talented kid. They boo every quarterback. They boo coaches. They boo, there's always a little booing. There's not a lot in Michigan Stadium, but there's always a little. I always told the quarterbacks this so that they understood that this may happen, that there's only one guy in the entire stadium that they have to please. Just one. Now, if I don't like what they do, they're in trouble. If 105,000 hate his guts and boo him, it doesn't mean damn. And he's got to understand that. So I try to indoctrinate these quarterbacks so they know that just take care of old Bo and you're all right.
And in 1983, Smith does take care of Bo. Number 16 leads the Wolverines to an 8-1 Big Ten record. One of the most dramatic games this year comes against Iowa. With the score tied 13-13 and just 12 seconds on the clock, Michigan lines up for a field goal. It's a 45-yard attempt.
Decker, down. Bergeron's kick, up, has the distance. It is good! It is good! With 8 seconds remaining on the clock, Bergeron has broken a 13-13 tie. The Wolverines have gone on top 16-13.
Michigan's only conference loss this season is to eventual Big Ten champion Illinois. The Maize and Blue finish second and accept a bid to play in the Sugar Bowl. Their opponent, Auburn.
Well, the Auburn game was unbelievable because Auburn was an unbelievably powerful, big, strong team. They came out, saw our little ragamuffins on defense, and because Bo Jackson said this himself, he said, I can't believe these guys are going to stop us. And the truth of the matter is they never got in the end zone. When I came in to coach, I had so many things I wanted to do coaching. I didn't want them taking my time. I didn't want to have to sell myself to the media. I had a team I had to handle first, and so I didn't want to be bothered.
But later on in your career, you and the media became buddies almost.
Yes, we had a relationship. Because they finally understood what I was all about. It only took them about 15 years, and they finally realized, the guy isn't anything more than what he is. He's a pain in the neck sometimes. He says what he thinks all the time, and but I never had any real animosity toward. There isn't a single sports writer or caster out there that I've, there's none that I despise. I mean, I get along with them fine. But when I was young, I didn't want them taking up my time. That's Michigan Replay, Sunday nights at noon on your TV alternative, TV 66.
Sunday nights at noon. Join us again this year for Michigan Replay.
It's the only place to get the inside story on Wolverine football. So boo you, boy, You asked me to go too damn fast.
Michigan begins the 1984 campaign with a 3-1 record that includes a victory over number 1 ranked Miami. In this contest, they intercept Hurricane quarterback Bernie Kosar a record 6 times. But against Michigan State, starting quarterback Jim Harbaugh breaks his arm. Michigan loses the game and loses Harbaugh for the season. The Maize and Blue now drop 3 of the next 6 games and finish 6-5 in the regular schedule. A bowl loss to Brigham Young ends the season. At 6-6, it's Bo's worst finish at Michigan.
84, as you know, Jim became the brunt of the jokes by everybody else that played Michigan football while I was the coach. Now, let's say it like it is. Fortunately, it's got a captain by the name of Doug James who has a sense of humor. and so he said, well, we still led the nation in attendance and trying to find something good that happened out of that season. But 6-6 seasons, totally unacceptable here. So for us to sit here and spend a lot of time on 1984, I really don't want to do that. I know the guys that played on there. There's some good friends on there that played on other teams that were outstanding, either before or after that year. But that year was a disaster. Now let's move on.
Things changed dramatically in 1985. With Harbaugh healthy and Jamie Morris charging out of the backfield, the Wolverines pound out 5 straight wins. The only conference loss comes against Iowa. The Hawkeyes kick a last-second field goal to win by 2. 2 weeks later against Illinois, the Illini try the same thing, a last-second field goal. The ball hits the crossbar, and the game ends in a 3-3 tie. In the locker room, spirits are low, but Bo has a different perspective.
Oh, you know the great thing about that game? When we tied that game and came into the locker room and our players were so distraught, I called them all together and I said, and I was emotional, I said, hey, we went into this snake pit, they couldn't beat us, and we may not have played as well as we can play, but we played hard. We have nothing, absolutely nothing to be ashamed of. And I'm going to tell you one other thing. There's nobody going to beat us the rest of the year. Nobody. I don't care what bowl we go to or what we do, no one will beat us the rest of the year. And I think if you go back through the record, nobody beat us, because that team at that time proved that it was a close-knit group. I mean, they were a tight-knit group. And when they saw that I had faith in them, after being tied, embarrassingly tied in Champaign, Illinois, they really did a job. So that was a good football team. That was a good one.
The Wolverines win the next 3, including a 27-17 victory over Ohio State, a game that is capped by a dramatic Harbaugh to Colasar TD toss.
And it was 2nd down and long. And we anticipated the blitz, because once they got back in the game, they had decided that they were going to come after us every down, particularly 2nd and long. So they came with a strong safety. The strong safety came, and we did not get a helmet on him. He was not blocked. And this little Jimmy Harbaugh stood back in there. Colasar ran down right past their best defender. And Jimmy looked at that strong safety who's going to hit him right under the chin and knock him flat, and pinpointed that ball into Colasar for a big play and a touchdown. And that took the wind out of their sails.
The season ends at the Fiesta Bowl with a 27-23 Michigan win over a powerful Nebraska team. In '86, the Wolverines are stronger, with Harbaugh in his senior year and Jamie Morris leading the ground game. The Wolverines blast their first 9 opponents. Against Iowa, again it comes down to a game-ending field goal. But this time, Michigan is kicking. The Wolverines appear to be unstoppable, but Minnesota stops them, 17-14.
Yeah, if you want to call it a debacle, fine. It was a terrible, terrible game. And an embarrassment for us to lose here, but, we did. So there you are.
Even with the loss, the next game against Ohio State is for the Rose Bowl. Michigan falls behind, but Jamie Morris leads a comeback with 210 yards rushing on the day. As the game winds down, Michigan leads 26-24, but the Buckeyes have one last chance. They line up for a field goal.
If he kicks this field goal, I'll kill him. Because they should not win the game. I mean, on the basis of what happened in the other 59 and a half minutes, they should not win the game. So, fortunately, they missed the field goal.
Michigan now beats Hawaii 27-10. But in the Rose Bowl, Arizona State comes out on top 22-15. In 1987, Harbaugh is gone and Schembechler must retool with a new quarterback. Turnovers dogged the team all year. They finish fourth with a 5-3 Big Ten record and accept a bid to play Alabama in the Hall of Fame Bowl. Prior to the bowl trip, Schembechler enters the hospital for tests.
I took a stress test and I had a catheterization. So I stayed overnight. And the next morning I got up and put my sweatsuit on. Millie came to pick me up. And I'm reading the paper in my sweatsuit laying on the bed. And it started to hit me. And, I'm familiar with what a heart attack is. And I started to sweat and have the pain. And I put the paper down. I said, Millie, get the doctor quick. I'm having a heart attack. And she ran. So they came scurrying in, and I took a couple nitroglycerin tablets. They immediately monitored, put the EKG on, and started to, check things out. And I laid there sweating, and finally, not more than half hour later, after I'd calmed down a little bit, and half hour later it subsided a little bit, they came in and said, we're going to operate now. And I looked at him and said, sedate me fast, because I don't want to think about this. And so I said a few emotional things to Millie, and they wheeled me into the operating room and operated on me immediately. And I think what happened is a blood clot had occurred. And had we not been in the hospital, I think it's a pretty safe conclusion that I wouldn't be here today. I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. And that team of doctors that operated on me before was available, and there was an operating room open. And everything worked in my favor. And I was wheeled in and operated on a second time.
Minus their leader, Michigan goes to the Hall of Fame Bowl. Gary Moeller subs for Bo. And Bo watches from home.
I just got home. It was about 10 days after the surgery. And I've got a big TV screen, so I had that right in front of me, and I was propped up on the couch watching the game. And it was the first half. I was, it went very smoothly the first half because we dominated and we led and everything looked good. And then the second half, we weren't moving the ball and they were moving it. I must admit, I got a little shaky.
Michigan's 21-3 halftime lead is blown away in the second half. Alabama scores 3 touchdowns, and with less than 5 minutes to play, Michigan trails 24-21. Now the Wolverines begin to move, but stall at the Alabama 20. It's 4th down and 3. Michigan must pick up the first down to stay alive. They do more.
The first thing you got to understand, Mo did not anticipate that ball going in the end zone to Colasar. There was a short receiver that he had hoped the ball would go to. The problem was that the containment got right up in the face of Demetrius. The only place he could throw that ball was to that corner of the end zone. That's the only place he had to throw the ball. And fortunately, it worked out perfectly. Colasar did a great job. The ball fell to the right spot, and we caught it for a touchdown. When that happened, I flew off that couch because I couldn't believe what happened there. I flew off that couch. That was a great experience.
The bowl victory caps this period in the Schembechler years, and Jamie Morris bows out as Michigan's all-time leading rusher with a record 4,393 yards.
That was the kid who I thought would be a very, very fine kick return specialist. Ended up becoming the all-time leading ground gainer in Michigan history. Now, what do you know about that? This is the last time we're going to be talking about Rose Bowls and all this, isn't it? Jinx, whatever it is, we have a bad record there, Jim, and it's usually 17-10, 14-10. It's 21-17. You know, whatever it is, that's what it is. And we lost more games out there than we won by a long shot. But I can't give you all the reasons for it or how to justify it. I would say that probably the Lord looked down there at me and said, look, if you win those 2, you'd be absolutely impossible to live with. We got to keep this guy in tow. And so we don't win the Rose Bowls.
(1988 and 1989), the final era in the Schembechler years, the time that is remembered for the Wolverines' back-to-back Big Ten championships. Given a clean bill of health, Schembechler enters the 1988 season with renewed vigor and an additional title. He is now the university's athletic director. But the Wolverines drop their first 2 games. A failed field goal gives Notre Dame a victory, and Miami comes back in the last 5 minutes to score 17 points and beat the Wolverines 31-30. With some players' spirits bottoming out, Schembechler takes steps to turn the season around, unusual steps. He delivers a special message to the media.
Well, I just told them that, they'd just seen the Big Ten champions play, that we were going to win the conference championship. And I felt very strongly about that. Of course, Miami and Notre Dame were great teams. There isn't any question. We could have beaten both of them. We didn't do it, but we could have. And I just felt that we would get our team together and we'd win the championship.
Schembechler knows his players are waiting for his reactions, and the Sunday morning papers are filled with Bo's words.
I'm sure it had an effect on them. They were ready to get ripped, and all of a sudden the guy says, we're going to win the Big Ten championship. And so I think that helped.
The Wolverines now play with new confidence. They win 3 in a row.
And he gets the handoff and comes up the middle to a big team, cuts to his left, and Tony Bowles is off to the races. The 20, the 10, it's a touchdown, 55 yards for Tony Bowles. Here's a fake punt. Gillette's going to keep it around the left side. He's got blockers in front. 30, 25, 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown!
A tie against Iowa is disappointing, but it doesn't keep the Maize and Blue out of the championship hunt. Indiana and Northwestern fall. Then against Minnesota, Michael Taylor is injured. Demetrius Brown returns as quarterback. He will remain the signal caller for the rest of the campaign.
Of all of the people who have played that position at Michigan over the 21 years I was here, Demetrius Brown was the best deep passer of them all. Nobody can throw it farther, more accurately than Demetrius Brown.
Brown's ability to throw deep will become crucial as Michigan marches toward the outright Big Ten title. Against Illinois, the Wolverines capture the Rose Bowl berth.
4 seconds, 3, 2, 1, it's all over. Michigan goes to Pasadena.
But for an outright Big Ten championship, Ohio State must fall.
And we've won the championship, a share of the championship, gentlemen. An outright championship. If you recall our goals, there's one other thing we got to do. Let's don't ever forget that.
After the first half, Michigan leads the Buckeyes 20-0. The second half is a different story. Ohio State scores 24 unanswered points and leads 24-20. Michigan scores to make it 27-24. But Ohio State scores, and now it's Ohio State 31, Michigan 27. It's a free-for-all.
Disgraceful, isn't it? It really is, because that's not the way the script is supposed to be written. And yet that's what happened. And of course, from a fan standpoint, that was exciting. From a coach's standpoint, it was less than a pretty picture. That was two teams not playing good defense. That's what it was.
With just 2 minutes and 2 seconds left to play and trailing by 3, Michigan needs a big play. It comes from John Colasar.
Colasar waits for it, 3 yards deep in the end zone. He's coming out, heading toward his right, angling over the 15, a team at the 20. Goes outside, he breaks in the clear, the 40, 45, 50, and Colasar is finally hauled down by the kicker Omoro at the Ohio State 41. A 62-yard run back by John Colasar.
2 plays later, it's Colasar again.
Back to throw Brown, steps up, gets inside the pressure. Now throwing on the run deep. Colasar open, leaps up, he's got it! It's a touchdown! John
Colasar single-handedly there won the game for us with those last 2 plays. And he was obsessed from the time that he caught the opening, or that kickoff following their touchdown. He was obsessed. And I thought he was going to go all the way on the kickoff. We only have 1 shot. That shot is me. That's the way he figured it. And I'm going to play this thing to the hilt. And that's what he did.
Michigan 34, Ohio State 31. The Wolverines are the outright Big Ten champions.
The objective to beat Ohio State, we accomplished. Number 2, There is no co in front of you.
Michigan goes against Southern Cal in the Rose Bowl. At halftime, the Wolverines trail 14-3.
A 14-3 deficit is not going to bury you. It's not going to bury you. All we need to do is take the ball and score the first time we got it. Now, fortunately, Jim, that's what we did. The first time we got it in the second half kickoff, we took it down and scored. That turned the tide to Michigan.
Michigan comes back in the second half and takes the Rose Bowl 22-14. In 1989, the season opener is billed as a battle for the national championship. Number 1 Notre Dame versus number 2 Michigan. Notre Dame stuns Michigan by returning 2 kickoffs for touchdowns. They knock starting quarterback Michael Taylor out of the game. They hold off Taylor's replacement Elvis Grbac long enough to take it 24-19. Disappointed, Michigan heads west to grapple with UCLA. The last 6 minutes of the game are decisive. The Wolverines trail by 8. They come back.
Grbac drops to throw, firing quickly, end zone, Derek Walker, touchdown Michigan! With 1:35 to go, Derek Walker makes the catch, and the Wolverines are within 2 at 23-21.
Now Michigan goes to the onside kick.
Here they go. Everybody moving. Carlson's kangaroo kick. Bounces up. Michigan has it. The Wolverines recover the onside kick at the 40.
7 plays later, it comes down to a field goal.
Everett snap. Placed down. The kick is up, and it's good. Michigan has taken the lead with 1 second to go.
Michigan 24, UCLA 23.
I think that turned certainly turned the season around for us. Up until that time, we had not demonstrated in 7 quarters that we were ready to win football games against good teams. And then late in that 4th period, we took command of that game with enthusiasm and confidence that we could win it, and went down there and won it. And that was very important to our season.
Michigan goes on to win the next 6 games. Now it is time to meet Illinois. This is the showdown for the Big Ten championship.
It was our feeling, and that game would most likely decide the Big Ten championship. As it turned out, it did.
It begins with offensive fireworks.
Here's the misdirection look. Bowles off the right side. Good block from Dingman. He breaks through 30, 35, 40. Tony in the clear. 50. Chased from behind. They'll never catch him. 25, 20, 15. Now he's hit from behind by Henry Jones. Inside the 5. Tony Bowles hauled down at the 1-yard line. A 73-yard run by Tony Bowles on the 2nd play of the game.
Late in the 3rd quarter, the score is Michigan 17, Illinois 10. But the Illini have a chance to tie it. It is 4th down and 1 from the Michigan 3.
And George fakes the grip if he's going to throw. He's getting heat. Flips in the end zone. Incomplete. Michigan takes over on down.
The Wolverines go on to take it 24-10.
I thought we played our best game of the year, and of all the games of that season, the one I was most proud of was Illinois.
Now against Ohio State, For Michigan, a second straight undisputed Big Ten title and a trip to the Rose Bowl is on the line. By the fourth quarter, Michigan leads 21-18. This is still too close for Schembechler, but with less than 2 minutes to play, Jared Bunch gets the call.
Taylor gives to Bunch up the middle, breaks the tackle, down to the 15, the 10, the 5, carries 2 tacklers into the end zone. Michigan locks it up.
We did something that hadn't been done in over 2 decades. We won the championship outright back-to-back. We have not lost a conference game in 2 years. This team has accomplished a great deal, and I'm very proud of you. I'm proud of the way you act. I'm proud of the way you work. I'm proud of the type of people you are. I'm proud of those seniors who played their last game.
Michigan is the outright Big Ten champion, the first Big Ten team to capture back-to-back solo championships in 23 years. To Bo, this has a special meaning.
There wasn't any question who was the best team in the Big Ten Conference over the last 2 years. That was for sure, because nobody could beat us. And that's very gratifying. Usually in the Big Ten, the champion has difficulty going through undefeated. Most likely he won't. And so for us to be able to do that back-to-back, I think was a great accomplishment.
But in the celebration of this accomplishment, Schembechler's thoughts turn inward to more personal matters.
Somebody said that when I think it was Mike Adamle interviewed me on television, immediately after the game on the field, I didn't even smile. And probably the reason for that was that I realized then that I had just coached my last game in Michigan Stadium.
Now, before the Rose Bowl, Bo announces his retirement.
I'm sad at leaving. I hate to leave the players. I hate to leave coaching. But it's time to go.
Schembechler closes out his career in the Rose Bowl, where Southern Cal edges Michigan 17-10.
Since the second operation, the doctor, particularly Dr. Reichert, had been pushing me to slow down. That, you just can't keep going. You're going to be 60 years old. You can't just keep pushing yourself like this. And as he related, he said, I don't think that you'll ever be able to step back and take a lesser role because you're too conscientious. You're just not the kind of a person that can do that. The only way you're going to be able to do this thing is to divorce yourself from the athletic program. It just dictated to me that it was time to go. And when I made the decision to retire, I never looked back, and I still don't, because it was the right thing to do. It was the right time to do it. What other football coach that coached a major college team could walk away from the job that he loved the most? I'll never have a job like the one I left. It was the most gratifying that I'll ever have. And but be able to walk away with it with the idea that I kept it intact as I left. It was not in disarray. I was not chased out of town. There were not violations of recruiting rules that forced me to resign. And all of the great people that contributed to the 21 years that were still with me are still working here, doing the same thing they did under me. That is unheard of in intercollegiate athletics. And to be able to do that made me very, very proud. And so I've not looked back, and I won't. But I'll never have a job like that again. I'll never. Come on, those. I mean, it could have been somebody else could have got the Michigan job in '69, and probably done the same things that I've done, maybe even better. but they wouldn't have the respect for the job like I had. I mean, I just, it was the best thing that ever happened to me in my life. And I didn't want to go on and on and on, where it became a burden, where it became too hard for me to do. And I couldn't be the guy that I was before. Because if I can't do it, you know, I can coach any position, anywhere, anyhow. I can do all those things. I can study film for 8 hours a day and never stop. I could do all those things. But it was coming to the point where maybe I couldn't do it anymore. And if that's the case, let's get somebody else in here that can do it.
His final record at Michigan stands at 194 wins, 48 losses, and 5 ties. His winning percentage is almost 80%. During the Schembechler years, no other Big Ten team wins more games than Michigan. During the 21 seasons of Bo's reign, overall, Michigan and Bo finish first in the Big Ten.
If I did one thing here that I'm proud of, I made a lot of friends. People that have coached with me, people that have worked with me, and most importantly, guys who played for me.
On the summer day when we arrived, we could feel him watching us, looking in to make sure we were there, looking out for us, you know, we really cared. We were young men becoming friends, young men of Michigan.
Coaches and players get to know each other a lot better than you do any other friendships you're going to have.
We could sense the man's honesty as we learned from all he said. We began to understand the pride he was teaching us to feel. The pride of working hard to reach a goal. The pride that you can feel deep in your soul. We were young men, young friends, young men of Michigan.
You're not afraid to say anything in front of them, because you're not going to hurt their feelings, because we've already beat on each other for a long period of time.
He taught us winning goes beyond the game. It becomes a part of who you are. He asked more from us than we thought we could give. Then we gave him more than he asked. We were young men, young friends, young men of Michigan.
I like to see him, and I like to talk with him. I like to visit with him. I like to laugh with him. And I like to hear him lie about all the reminiscence about Bo stories that they lie because I don't remember all those things happening. But we all laugh and, and have a good time.
And we could sense the man's honesty when he called us on.